Do cops belong at pride marches? In recent years, many prominent organizations that coordinate pride marches have asked or required uniformed cops not to attend. And there's a lot of backlash. Anna Arboleda, the former vice president of the Gay Officers Action League, said the decision was devastating and that she felt she was being thrown back into the closet. In 2021, the New York Times editorial board even published this piece, which denounces the law enforcement ban in New York. In the article, they appealed to the history of the LGBTQ community cheering for every out person at these events, even if they were police. But I find it very interesting that the history of police at Pride was one of the arguments they went with. In the words of this tweet, who does the New York Times think those queer leaders were throwing the first brick at? For context, the Stonewall Uprising was a rebellion in response to a police raid of the Stonewall Inn, which was considered a haven for the city's gay, lesbian, and transgender communities. And all subsequent Pride marches were born out of a commemoration of this event. But this brutal dynamic between police and queer people is not just a historical one-off. Even in recent times, police presence at pride marches has been marred with violence against defenseless citizens. In 2020, police pepper-sprayed a crowd during the Queer Liberation March. And during a protest to raise awareness around the killings of black transgender individuals like Tony McDade and Nina Pop, NYPD pounced on the queer peaceful protesters, punching them and beating them with batons before rounding them up and arresting them. But don't let these obvious cases of police brutality make you think this is a bad apples problem. Law enforcement has always been commissioned to follow their job title, which is to enforce laws. And this includes the hundreds of laws that were made throughout American history to criminalize queer people, which has resulted in their imprisonment, torture, and in some cases even death. Even today, instead of backlash, organizations could have used the bans as momentum for advocacy. The message could have been something along the lines of, these bans highlight the harm that police and legislation have had on the queer community, and they should be a wake-up call for how we need to decriminalize and protect queer individuals, especially the ones most disenfranchised by our society. But no, like what cops tend to do when criticized, they decided to deflect and evade accountability. Sarban Archuleta of the Gay Officers Action League, who I mentioned before, was quoted prior to the ban saying, "There is no difference between a straight cop and a gay cop in New York City." And that's exactly the problem. Share and follow for more.